get started here. Once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Bean Tech Talk Tuesday. We're honored to have with us Miss Tiffany J. Martin, the dynamic Chief Executive Officer of Visotech. Tiffany is a certified Scrum Master and CPOPM. I can't wait to find out what all that is. I'm still learning. With years of experience leading teams, managing products, and driving digital transformation. As the CEO of Visotech, she is focused on helping organizations leveraging technology, strategy, and innovation to solve complex challenges and unlock new opportunities. Beyond her technical experience, Tiffany is a trailblazer in leadership, breaking barriers as a woman, not just a woman, black woman, in tech, opening doors for others to follow. Her work embodies the power of technology not only to scale business, but also to create equity and access in our communities. Today, she'll share her journey, insights, and emerging technologies and her vision for how innovation hubs like the Bean Path and Tech District can amplify entrepreneurships and community growth. So, we can go right on in. Tiff, did I do a good job, a bad job? Let me know now.
No, you did a wonderful job.
Okay, then. So, I had to do my little research, but I kind of today I just wanted to take us on a little journey. First off, about your personal journey and your leadership. And so, what I asked everybody is like, what sparked you into tech?
What sparked me? When I was younger in high school, I came across a woman. Her name is Saki Milton.
Mm-hmm.
She's the founder of the GEMS Camp. It's a
Okay.
STEM program, but she told me I was going to get into STEM now. When I went into college and my undergrad, I went a completely separate direction and went into business and entrepreneurship. However,
Mm,
later on in life, when I lost my vision at the age of 28 due
okay.
to diabetic retinopathy, say that 10 times
Okay.
in a row, it was technology that bridged a gap for me. My parents
Mm,
were really encouraging me to utilize it. I went blind. I was on peritoneal dialysis 9 hours
okay.
every single night and trying to maintain a 9 to 5 because, quite frankly, I needed health insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody got to pay those bills, and my parents are taking in my grandmother, so it's a multi-generational home.
Mm,
They're executives, for a nonprofit, so it's a lot going on with our home, our tight, circle, but there were just things that I needed to be able to do.
mm,
So it was technology, like I said, that bridged that gap. And once I got the hang of it and
mm-hmm.
realized all of the opportunities that it opened up, I knew that the privileged position that I was in gave me a um, keen insight on how I could help all of the identities represented in my intersectionality. So,
Okay. I love that. I mean, it's the multi-generational, which I do love. I actually like families going back to that, to be honest with you. I'm
mm.
one of those sticklers for that because there's so much wisdom you can learn that's going to be passed down, and it's more communal, I would say in my words. But um, I did have that. So I'm looking at this acronym CSM, and then I look at this other acronym called CPOPM.
Hmm.
Now, for us everyday common folks out here, I would say that's not so deep into tech. Could you just break that down and brittle for us? What is that really? Like what do you really do?
So those certifications I got because I wanted to understand the design, development, and deployment of technologies.
Mm,
So it comes from agile methodology, which takes an incremental and iterative approach in building and designing, various tech and their features.
okay.
So the CPO PM stands for Certified Product Owner and Product Manager, and then the Certified Scrum Master, sorry, is the one that kind of rallies everybody together from a facilitator,
Okay.
standpoint, and
Okay.
making sure that they alleviate any barriers from their development team. So it's just one of the many weapons I kind of call it, like I bring into my arsenal
Awesome
to be able to
too.
help. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. I'm there's a lot of people I know that, are trying to go into the tech space. And when I saw that, I was like, well, you know what? I can Google it. I can ask ChatGPT, one of those or co-pilot, but I say, you know what, I'm going to wait and ask the CEO, see what she tells me. But I appreciate that. But I know you got your parent company. You kind of told me about that in the email, but I
Mhm.
want to talk about this company you're a part of, um, the Visotech, the mission and
Mhm.
the impact. So, in what terms, what problems does Visotech solve, and why is it important right now?
So, Visiotech is short for Visionary Technologies. When I
Okay.
lost my vision, my mom and dad, like I said, and my family rallied behind me. And my dad said, "You may have lost your sight, but you did not lose your vision."
Mm,
And so that stuck with me and kind of anchored my purpose.
okay.
Once I got over that hill, over my health decline. And so there were three areas in which I wanted to center on with Visiotech itself. That's AI solutions,
Okay.
cybersecurity solutions, and training. You
Okay.
know, AI is the innovation aspect, and we need that right now,
Mm,
not just from a broad standpoint, but if specifically if we're going to look at marginalized communities,
mm,
innovation is what's going to close that gap. And it's not just that aspect. I want, technology to be both accessible to everyone as well as secure. Um, we have to have innovation and regulation. They have to balance each other. There has to be guardrails put in place so, as we're rapidly advancing in this fourth industrial revolution, we don't want to, roll off the rails.
okay.
And then training is important, especially for those communities that I talk to, but especially the companies that serve us, because I really want people to understand these big companies, these large companies are here to produce products and services for us.
Okay.
So you should place a mandate on, what they're offering to be both accessible and secure. So it's important to teach the communities, but it's also important to teach these companies how they should be, whether responsible, trustworthy, ethical, those aspects.
Now, I didn't have that in my line of question, and maybe I should, especially this day and age. I would say I'm an Air Force guy, so I know a little bit about when it comes to policy and regulations. And
Mhm.
so the last 10 years, I mean, do you see a lot of emphasis on policy from a, federal level or governor, or government or state level? That's actually be more solution oriented, actually doing things that you would like to see. Are you seeing those policies come down, or is it still kind of gray right now in America?
Well, first, let me say thank you for your service.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
you know, freedom isn't free, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
But with laws and regulations, it's always going to be reactionary, right?
Yes.
We can only, create regulations so far in
Mm,
anticipation, but until something happens, we have to create, these protections and so forth. With I don't, you can look at it both ways. Some people say that, where we were and how fast it's happening, it was anticipated, and then others, absolutely not.
mm,
With that being said, we're seeing a lot of uh, laws that we've had in place, like privacy protection acts,
okay.
be the landmark and the basis of what we're trying to create now. As far
Mm,
as more comprehensible AI laws, we're seeing that within, California, Colorado has one. I know here in Texas, we're working at it. Um, DC, uh, most recently with deep fakes, um, uh, protections over minors.
mm,
But for a full comprehensive one on a global scale, we're seeing that with the EU AI Act, making AI explainable, making sure that it's accessible and sustainable. And so to answer your question, I think it's going to catch up. I think
okay.
2030 is around that year that everybody's kind of anticipating where that regulation might gain some ground.
Okay.
But that's kind of where we're working on right now.
So it's basically close when I get to my senior age, get to my senior side. That's when I basically see. Okay, I mean, I guess I can just keep on pushing. But moving along. As far as Visitech though, can you share? Do you have like a project or a partnership you guys had where you did some transformative impact?
Absolutely. I can share three.
Okay. Okay.
We, at the beginning of the year, specifically on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, come
Okay,
on
that's
now.
fine. Go on.
But we partnered with the Black Girls Hack Foundation, which
Okay.
focuses on cybersecurity. And we were very intentional about that day because, as we know, there was a lot of executive orders
Hmm.
signed that removed a lot of the work that has been built
Yeah.
within DEIA. And so in anticipation for that, we wanted to come together and join our resources, our social capital and all of that to make
Hmm.
sure that we are being the ones that can be a solution to our communities.
Hmm.
And so we've seen that, uh, come into fruition through education. Their executive director, newly appointed executive director, Rebecca Skeet, and I taught over the summer with another partnership called the Gems Camp. So that came full circle,
Beautiful.
where we taught AI accessibility and cybersecurity to middle school girls,
Okay.
seventh, eighth, and ninth graders, and had a completion rate of 100% at both the Southern
Mm.
Methodist University, as well as Texas Christian University camps.
Okay. Okay.
And then most recently, we just joined in partnership with the Mark Cuban Foundation
Okay.
in making sure both their online properties as well as their programs are more accessible to all of the communities they're trying to serve.
Yeah, I'm loving that. I'm loving to me, it's like the grassroots effect. We're gonna go to the people, where
Yeah.
they at, meet them where they at, and bring them to the vision where we're trying to go. Um, so moving ahead here real quick. Time is going by pretty fast. I just had a birthday in March, turned the 40, and I would say next 3 to 5 years will be around 45. Where do you see Visotech evolving as AI and data, like you say, automation is continuing to, ramp up like a microwave, or I would say warps, like in the a spaceship way, that's going warp speed. Where do you see Visotech evolving as?
For me, idealistically,
Yeah.
um, in 3 to 5 years, we would have established a standard
Mm.
that combines both accessibility and cybersecurity in tech, but more specifically in AI. So
Okay.
when we're having those conversations, like we talked about earlier in regulation, I am
Mm.
hoping we would have, uh, you know, gotten enough ground covered to
Okay.
where large corporations, as well as small businesses, are thinking about the customer and consumer from a holistic approach.
Okay.
How can we lower barriers of entry, and how can we also keep them safe?
Mm.
I'm hoping accessibility becomes at the forethought of what we're doing, and that more people take a design first approach. The
Okay.
reason why I'm so passionate about accessibility is there was a woman, or there is a woman, sorry, is a woman by the name of Angela Glover Blackwell. And she came up with this phenomena, if you will, called the curb cut effect.
Okay.
If you are walking down the sidewalk and you notice that little divot at the corner, that's a
Hmm.
curb cut. Now, that comes from it being created going way back to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 93, in which it was built for people that use wheelchairs.
Mm.
But as we know today, people riding bikes,
Yeah.
parents pushing their children in
Oh,
strollers,
yes.
um, you know, people workers
Mm.
using it to push large items with dollies. Everybody utilizes
Don't,
this
don't forget.
divot.
Don't forget the autonomous food delivery little things they be having that be using
Exactly. Robots.
the
Now
robot.
robots use them.
Yes.
But one effect of it that many people didn't take into consideration, it also helps with safety because
Mm.
instead of people jaywalking, they just naturally gravitate toward that divot, use the
Yes, sir.
crosswalk, and safely move
Okay.
across.
Yes, sir.
The phenomena in that is it was built for people with disabilities, but everyone benefited from it.
Mm.
When we see that in technology, you see things like closed caption, where that is for the deaf and hard of hearing. However, if we're busy in an airport and are trying to, watch news or movie, it benefits us.
Hmm.
Also for people who don't, English is not their native language. They're
Yes.
able to learn, utilizing that. So this is, a concept that I hold, near and dear, and what I am trying to kind of build, Visiotech, on top of. So,
So you say what you're kind. I think what's what you are. I think you're doing it to me. And my little research, it seems like to me, it seems like you're doing it.
uh,
And I don't take that for granted at all. One thing you just mentioned about you mentioned small businesses, and I would assume some of the businesses are for profit and nonprofit.
mhm.
What emerging technologies do you believe these small businesses and nonprofits must start adopting today that you know of?
Oh, I'm definitely going to lean into AI, but both as a production tool,
Okay.
um, as well as, accommodations if we're looking at that, but uh, for automation, but not all. I think, what we do when we come in and talk about AI implementation is, do you need AI for these particular tasks? And I think that is a level of awareness that most companies, especially small businesses and nonprofits, need to have. It is not this panacea of an item. It's not, it comes in and it solves everything. We need to sit down and understand which areas are impacted most,
Okay.
which can expedite, some task, um, where can we connect to better understand operations from a fluid, aspect. How can
Okay.
our accounting department meet with our marketing, meet with our cyber, those aspects. But I definitely think with agents on the rise, and by this time next year, uh, you'll see them working in an asynchronous way.
Okay.
And I mean, I think the human power from people upskilling, in which we hope to do,
Hmm.
will be exponential, and the work that they're being able to put out, that output will grow as well. I'm hoping to see a large increase with small businesses by
Yeah.
utilizing this.
Just listening to you talk right now, some people fear AI.
Hmm.
Let's just be honest with it. I always hear this now, especially in my last year or so. I hear they say, keep the human in the loop, keep the human in
Hmm.
the loop. That being said, do you see AI or automation creating new opportunities, like new jobs for communities, such as, I would say, communities like myself, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Birmingham, certain areas? Do you see them actually creating new opportunities?
Absolutely. I'm gonna take this time and kind of just speak to us, the
Okay.
Black and Brown community.
Yes.
We are inherently creative. It
Mm.
is embedded into our DNA.
The bootleg.
Just it's us,
Okay.
They make millions off of our creativity. We can
That's
come up
true.
with a trend and move on to the next. It's a superpower. It's whatever you want to call it.
Call it. Okay.
When you bring in AI is not meant to replace, even though it will in some cases. We see that with each industrial revolution. It's
Mhm.
supposed to augment. It is supposed to optimize what we have.
Mm.
So if you are, a producer and you're trying to figure out things and you don't have the resources with technology now, you could advance way faster than what anybody could just 5, 10 years ago.
Mm.
We have to, get over those fears that we have with new things.
Hmm.
We need to embrace. It's not going anywhere. It's embedded and entrenched in all that we do. And I'm hoping, with doing talks like this and being present and how I use it to fill gaps just from a person with a disability,
Hmm.
as well as a business owner, to show the example. But we really have the opportunity to get ahead of this movement, this advancement, and be at the lead. Not just the consumer, but the operators. And that's what I'm hoping to champion, that we're not just using it and consuming it, we're building from it. We're creating value in different areas. So,
So that would mean that what I'm hearing, some people, I think the Beam Path does this. some people you have to really like kind of take them by the hand and
Yeah.
show them and walk them through that. So to me, that would mean that there would be a lot of more opportunity on the consulting side of business or companies saying, hey, this is what we mainly focus on is to do, a step by step process to get you to take those ideas and, like you were saying, take them to the whole next level, augmenting your ideas. I look forward to that. I hope some of the things that we create is more solution oriented, not just for profit. I know, even though we're in a cap society, I want some things to actually provide a solution. Like I would say, lowering our utility bills is one.
Mhm.
If I can find some technology out for that, sign me up. Um, that being said, what industries do you think are most ripe for tech disruption in the next decade?
Ooh.
I'm
Are
sorry
we
for
just
question two
talking
too.
AI?
Well, I mean, hey, when I get one of you CEOs in front of me, I'm trying to ask a tough question. So, whatever you feel that comes to your dome and say, Jason, what about this or what about that? We need this. We got this like a good dialogue. Tell me, what do you think is out there in the next decade?
One of the major industries that I'm seeing a lot of disruption, and I'm happy about it, but I'm
Mm,
also nervous, is healthcare.
okay,
Being that I have had uh, 3 transplants
okay.
and both surgeries, because 2 of those transplants happened at the same time, both surgeries was human and robotic
Mm,
with a symbiotic relationship.
okay.
The reason why we are needing more good data, and when I say good data, um, from more robust data on Black and Brown communities, which they're going to have to do a better job of, is because my body may respond to a treatment
Mm,
and a care plan completely different than my Caucasian counterparts.
got you.
Um, just genetically, how I respond to medications may differ. There are
Yeah.
certain diseases that impact us in different ways, like sickle cell,
Hmm.
diabetes, hypertension, things of that nature. Um, and with what we're able to do and how they're breaking down proteins using, all of this, these different tools and learning models and so forth specific to the healthcare industry, I know we're going to see some cures coming up. I would not be
Mm,
surprised if I in this lifetime, in the next 10 years, if, Lord willing, if we would see a cure for things like cancer
okay.
or juvenile diabetes.
Mm.
Um, just, that's what I'm anticipating. That's the kind of disruption and
That
why I want us to not fear, but kind of take charge because these are going to impact you, coming up. And we do need a presence
yeah.
as these things are being developed.
You spoke on the data, and you need much accurate data as possible to make
Hmm.
these things be very effective. And I know sometimes certain communities they, for a lot of different reasons, historically, I would say don't don't really participate in sharing their
Yeah.
data. But you're saying, hey, we need to change that mindset because hey, these are solutions from the data. You have people who have, who have good intentions, who actually want to create things, provide a solution, and a better your whole family, generationally speaking. I'm hearing you
Hmm.
say. So basically, in your books, I'm guessing AI is kind of like fire. It's not good or bad. It's basically how you use it or how
Yeah.
it's used.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite sayings, well, two. One is a hammer can be used to build a house. It can be used
Mm,
as a weapon and it can be used as a paperweight. It's really who wields it,
gotcha.
um, where that impact lands. And then second, and I heard this during a responsible AI course that I took,
Hmm.
and it stuck with me. It said, data is the artifact of the human experience. Well, we know data in this country,
Hmm.
with our human experiences, has not always favored Black and Brown people.
Hmm.
And so, it is my hope and desire that right now, with the abilities and everything at at our fingertips, we can kind of change what the next 40 years will look like.
Okay.
With us being present in the education system. They make a lot of decisions
Yeah.
based off of data, and we know they are building prisons based off of
Third grade
reading and
results.
math
Yeah.
comprehension in
Yeah.
third grade.
You're right.
We have to be present. Our future generations depend on us being present, and making our print, giving our fingerprint to this
Mhm.
data that's going to be used to power these incredibly powerful machines.
Okay. Well, I really like that. I really do like that. You're always hitting on the education component. I used to have a little time as community parent organizer. That's kind of always did in my heart. I always say that I had one educator one day, you remind me of, the children were speaking Ebonics. And she was like, I gotta stop speaking Ebonics. And I was like, hold up. That's a science. That's some
Yeah,
that's a huge math they're doing. Create their own language. They standardize their own language amongst themselves. It sounds some people they laugh at. To me, I'm looking at the genius, but like you're
yeah,
saying behind that, and we take it so like take it for granted. But like, what else could their mind create and utilize behind that? And you know what I'm saying, and create the next trend or whatever it may be. But give me something to think of. Let me move on to the entrepreneurship side. That's kind of one of my favorite spots. What advice do you have for women, founders of color, early stage entrepreneurs, breaking into the tech sector?
ooh, I'm stealing this from one of my friends, Rebecca Skeet, that I mentioned earlier.
Uh-huh.
She always says, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Mm,
Um, I am, I like to plan. As a strategist, I'm looking at the good, bad, in between. I'm, just
whoop,
contingency after contingency, and I can tend to get in my head, work through scenarios, and might talk myself out of doing something. And it has really been in the last 2 years, 3 years, where I've just kind of felt the fear and did it anyways. And I've seen major return. Um,
oh,
I,
mm,
for me, one accomplishment that lends itself back to the business is I had Saki Milton, the callback. She called me up about 2, 3 years ago and said, "You need to get back into education. You need to get your graduate degree." And I'm like, "I'm not going back to school." But she said, "We need your mind."
mm,
And as a Black woman with a disability, being blind, I did not know what that looked like. I hadn't been in school for years, and let alone doing it blind.
mm.
Um, and to be quite frank, I went to the top. I applied for three, went to a HBCU, and I
Okay.
went to a PWI and applied, and both declined on lack of experience and lack of
Oh,
academia. And I could have took that and set back on my heels, but I went to Baylor University, R1
okay.
Research, and I told them this is what I come with. And the first thing out their mouths was, how can we help make you successful? That's all I needed was that opportunity, that access, I kind of alluded to before. And I ended up, and I'm not saying this for a brag, I'm saying this for encouragement. I ended up graduating at the top of my class with an MBA in cybersecurity. How I was going to do that, I didn't know.
Gotcha.
But, utilizing AI to fill in those gaps and working and just having an institution believe in me was all that I needed, and I ran with it. I felt that fear and did it anyways. But that went back into the business
Mm.
and really changed how I looked and took an approach in how we meet with companies. So that's, my little soapbox, moment.
No,
I
no, I
would love to
appreciate
share.
it. But that's my job, as a host. I gotta find those good questions. I gotta pull some of that stuff out of you. As they say, the word education, edu, to bring what's inside of you outwardly will not help mold that. So I appreciate that. I think the guys that's listening and those who are gonna be reviewing this in the future, they're gonna be able to take away a lot from this. Um, What do you look for in let me see here, a potential partner, a collaborator, or startup worth investing in?
We're so we're a social tech company. We're
Yeah.
for profit, but we're at our core, we're servant leaders.
Okay.
If I do not see uh, that your impact and what you're doing goes beyond yourself,
Mm,
if it's not, serving, at its core,
mm-hmm.
then I can't put, what we built behind it.
Mm,
Um, like when I am dead and gone, I'm hoping that the impact of Visiotech out, lives me
okay.
years and decades from now, but that it is still deeply rooted in the values of servitude.
Mm.
Um, but it's one of those you have to find that perfect partnership, and we don't take those lightly.
You know,
Um,
you're the first person I probably have talked to as a business owner, and especially, the Western capital system, that actually even said that, where I look at to collaborate and partner with somebody is to make sure that company is actually serving. You know, you're going to make money, but are you really trying to serve your community or serve your constituent base that you're trying to, just
mhm,
receiving your product at the end or your service at the end of the day. You don't really hear about that from that lens. Maybe they do say it. I don't know if you in your circle do you hear a lot of that being stated, but you're like the first person. And I guess because you actually say, "Hey, I got it out the mud. I understand it." Somebody invested in you years ago, and here you coming right back. You did your own thing, right back to the tech. So I mean, if that person ever, invested that into you, who knows? I don't know if you came back to being tech now. Um, if you had to share like one hard truth, and I have to ask this good question. I mean, one hard truth about entrepreneurship that most people don't talk about, okay, what would it be?
you are never your own boss. Like, like, working a 9 to 5, and I've worked a 9 to 5 and a five to
Yeah.
nine, and I had to, especially what I didn't get a chance to share when I got married. After I got my first kidney and pancreas transplant, my husband moved down from Connecticut,
Mm,
um, college educated, worked for, federal government, came down. We're expecting him to get a job, and 2 months after we got married, I had kidney rejection. We thought we were pregnant. That wasn't the case. And so I got sick. He's without a job. And then we hit the pandemic. So I'm doing a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 9 to maintain health insurance for the both of us and the income.
hmm
And I just, after that got into the position to where I could do full-time entrepreneurship. But a lot of that, before then was, I'm be my own boss and make my own rules, just prideful, to
Oh
be
yeah.
honest. Not really understanding um, the type of leadership needed to do that. But
Mm,
that experience of the 5 to 9, 9 to 5 was humbling. So when I did get into the position of leadership, I realized, my boss went from, one CEO to hundreds, thousands of consumers. So,
mm,
you are at the mercy of the
mm,
demand. So
mm,
you really never truly become, your own boss. It just changes the face of it. And I
mm.
think one thing I would like to nip in the bud is when, especially kids, I'm gonna just go on TikTok and be an influencer, be my own boss. Well, instead of doing a 9 to 5, your consumer, that audience that you cater to,
Mhm.
if they decide to be uninterested in you, that's your revenue.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So yeah.
Well, I'm glad, I'm glad you said that. You said at the end of the day, you're really not your own boss. I mean, whoo, it's a hard pill to swallow now. Everybody, do not want to, that I know of. A lot of people egos do not want to actually, agree to that statement at all. And you can understand, they done bust their butt. They done had to get it out the mud. They done sacrifice, put their own funds into it, and so on and so on. And I get it, but then again, you're being honest, you're being transparent. It's like you kind of have to have that constant rapport
Hmm.
with your audience or with your consumer base. Because really, I think most time they keep you afloat. They give you the new ideas or
Yeah.
the issues, whatnot. Though I've wore a lot of hats. So I don't want to talk about my hats, but I used to be over the post office and even my military job. And one office I was in the military, I get over 3,000 people to come in my office every month, and that's a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but consumers sometimes we don't ask the right questions.
Hmm.
And so on the other end, you have to know kind of like know what to ask me so I can ask you the right question
Yeah.
so I can get what I want. I think it's like a shared responsibility between the consumer and the owner. And I wish we can get to more of that, to where things don't have to be for me, they don't have to cost that much, where
Yeah.
you can make your profit and I can still get what I need, but
The
maybe I'm
data.
dreaming. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm dreaming because I guess the taxes folks, the people who want taxes, they want their amount too. So we don't have no say so in that. But moving along here, how do you see innovation hubs such like the Bean Path and the Tech District investing in tech equity and entrepreneurship?
So I love it because it's close. You know, y'all are like in the community.
Mm,
And I know for a lot of pockets with, black and brown, we have to kind of go out, which, can be a strain on the household, getting to those services.
mm,
Or on the flip side of that, when we have organizations that are not ran, that look like us, that might have had lived experiences like us,
mm,
how they deliver and package the resources not may not really cater to that population group and what is actually needed.
mm,
Um, the cool thing, and I wanted to share this story um, with your founder. I was working on the GEMS camp that I mentioned earlier, and one of the things I was tasked with doing is finding representation.
mm,
And so I'm looking through, this catalog of all of these, great women and trying to find us.
mm,
And I came across the Bean Path. And it was just mere coincidence. I didn't even put two and two together. Because I had a friend, her name is Jessica Cherry, actually put me in contact, with you all. So I'm not putting any of these things together, but I came across Dr. Nashley Cephas, sorry.
okay.
And when I placed it into the capstone, for the girls to review, um, the feedback was, "Oh, she looks like me. She sounds like me."
Mm,
And I was just like, "Yeah, like you can get into computer science and
mm,
engineering and so forth." And that just one of those moments, and I don't cry much, but I did get emotional
mm,
for those girls to see that. But it was so funny when I was building the curriculum, and it was a friend of mine that said, "Hey, you realize you're going to go speak on that platform?" And I'm like, it just didn't dawn on me. I don't know if I was so deeply entrenched in building the lesson plan, but it's another full circle moment. But I think that's important. These girls that we were working with they come from under champion communities. And I don't care what anybody says, representation does matter. For them to see that, and then, some aspire to be that,
yeah.
you have a place where you can launch your arrow to now. Instead of just, pointing and shooting into the abyss, hoping it lands. You've seen somebody, witness somebody get there. And now you can do that and follow that and then surpass. So
I appreciate what you shared with me right there. Reputation does matter in any day and age. It matters. A lot of people don't know this, and I don't know if you know this, but when it does come to the sciences, the engineering, and American history, Some people probably, I know some people have egos, but I'm gonna say this because it's just the truth. It is what it is.
Tell the truth.
A lot of the founders people are actually women, and especially black women.
Hmm.
We're dealing with math. They used to just call them in the aerospace world. They used to call them like math. They didn't call them women. They call them mathematics. Like all like this is research that I found out. And I was like, do we even know like how powerful we are? Because everything is around numbers to me.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't care what you can run away from it. Whatever is in your face. All the time. So here to hear you say that. I do know one thing about the brown and black communities is that once we see something, we want to take it to the next level.
Hmm.
So it's like if I see you do this, okay, what can I do to advance that? And that's a beautiful thing, really. To me, that's a beautiful thing. That's me. That's more of the magic that you were speaking on. I call things. I say when we transition. Um, when we transition, you want people to actually take it to the next level and to
Yeah.
understand the foundation. Though I would say understand the foundation that what took place. All the hurdles you had to do to get where you were at. We never forget that and lose sight of that also. That being said, if you could design one signature program here to prepare the next generation of innovators like yourself, what would it look like?
Ooh. Ask me that question again.
Okay, I'll
I
tell
gotta
you one
make sure
time. I'll tell
I.
you one time. If you could design one signature program here to prepare the next generation of innovators like yourself, what would it look like?
Mm, I would whatever whatever the program is, uh, they would have to identify a marginalized community outside of
Mhm.
their own,
Okay.
and whatever that technology would be, um, it would one have to eradicate a problem, or at least build the foundation to be established, to eradicate a problem, and it needs to be sustainable. That would be
Okay.
the second thing.
Okay.
Um, I believe that would require them to look beyond themselves,
Mm.
outside of, our myopic views. We tend to live in vacuums.
Yeah.
Um, all pun intended, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And it's when we kind of step out of our boxes and we go experience or get to know somebody, different from us,
Hmm.
uh, that it resonates and we're more aware, more cognizant of it, moving forward. So it would be something to where they have to look outside of themselves, and that would cause them to be uncomfortable. We have to be comfortable with tension and that friction. Um, we don't have to live the same lives. We don't have to have the same beliefs. We don't have to look the same, don't even have to have the same ideologies. But if we have mutual respect for those
Hmm.
differences, we can build. I always look at it like this. If I'm a two by four and you're a two by four, I can't stand up by myself. But
Mm.
if I lean on you and you lean on me and I don't overshadow you and you don't overshadow me, we make an A-frame.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So that would be something as far as the program, of course, eradicating a problem, making sure it's sustainable, but it has to be somebody outside of yourself. It has to be a problem or issue outside of, you know, your purview.
I'm glad I asked that question because my follow-up question is gonna go right on in. So what opportunities do you see in the near future for Visual Tech and the Bean path to collaborate in
Oh.
advancing community-driven innovation?
Um, I mean, if there is any programming, maybe that, we just mentioned, where accessibility can be incorporated. Um, And just to, for clarity, Visiotech, we are a tech company. I think a lot of people think that we're an accessibility technologies company. No, we're a tech company, but
Mhm.
accessibility is important. Um, but it's important because one in five, people in the globe has a disability, and one in four Americans does,
Mm,
whether that's a parent or non-a-parent. And so I like to incorporate accessibility, like I mentioned before, as a design aspect. And so, with kids growing up and being exposed to people with disabilities is important because they're not going to work in an office that's monolithic. You're not going to work in an office with, all Black people. You might, but the likelihood, might not be that way. And you're not going to work in a group with people that, they all don't have disabilities. You're going to run into it. And I think exposing them early and making them aware makes for better creators and CEOs and teammates and just overall citizens. And
mm.
so any programming I would love to do um, that could combine what we do, like I mentioned before, AI and cyber and accessibility to where we are creating responsible AI, individuals and leaders and creators. That would really get me going, and I would be excited to see that come into fruition.
Well, I believe I have the ED. I think she's online, Executive Director Ms. Tamika, and I know the board members may be online too. So I'm gonna try to do my best to see, sow those seeds and make sure we get some collaboration going on here. I
Absolutely.
can't have all this. I tell everybody, I can't have all this. I need you guys on the front line collaborating. I'm a military strategist, so I'm thinking like, hey, what can we do? I don't care if you way over there, way over here. Let's figure it out. I got broadband, I got fiber. So that should make sure we bridge the gap. Before we close out here, I got one more question. That would be it. There's one piece of advice you'd like everyone here at the Bean Path to take home today and apply this week. What would that be?
One piece of advice to take with you. I know right now, it seems really hectic.
Mm,
There's a lot of division.
hmm
Um, there's a lot of hurt. And I think a lot of people are wanting to be understood, to be seen. And if I could give any encouragement, I would say that your voice absolutely matters. What you bring to the table, who you are, the mere fact that there is no other person in the world with your fingerprint, there will never ever be another you created. Um, your mind, your lived experience, how you view your perception, your perspective, all of those things, all of you is needed right now. You weren't born, 100 years ago. You weren't born 100 years in the future. You were born right now.
mm.
You were born in this era, and we need you. And if I can encourage anybody, I would just say use your voice and be comfortable in exactly who you are.
Okay. I think I'm gonna make sure. I know we have the participants. Does anyone have a question that's online? Any questions at all before we go? I'm gonna make sure I see any hands raised in the chat. We don't have to be shy, but okay then. Well, I don't see anything right now. But before I close here, I just want to tell you, Tiffany, it has been an honor. Hold on here. Let me see here. Did I get a question? Let's see here. Okay, no question. I thought I did. But as I was saying here, it's been an honor and pleasure. Thank you so much for taking this time out today to share your story, your experience, and your vision with us today here at the Bean Path. I gained a lot about your entrepreneurship journey. It's always good to hear those foundation things like, hey, you know what? Years ago, somebody told me I was going to do this, but I said I'm gonna do my own thing. I came right back, doing the thing, doing the thing that they told me I was going to do. And sometimes they have that foresight that we don't see, you know.
Yeah.
And the reminder of, this basically about having that power of resilience. innovation, the community, all the things you were saying, as far as how how you got your company, breaking the barriers in tech leadership, you're doing that. I love it, but I think that's something natural. It comes natural to us either also, but I think we kind of fear that sometimes. The
Mhm.
person in the mirror, because we have this perception of where we're supposed to be, and actually, you're supposed to be you. Just do it, and you'll work out the rough edges along the way. That's what I say. So.
Yeah.
Hey, on behalf of the Bean Path and the Tech District, we want to express our gratitude for your time, your insights, and your willingness to pour into our community. Look forward to the future collaboration. And thank you again. Take care there, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, then. Be blessed, man.
You
See you
too.
guys later.